Hello, and thank you. Wait, let me start over. How do I start this? Hey everyone, this is Bradley, and I'm going to be pruning my Snow Fountains Weeping Cherry tree in this video. I've been a little bit nervous about doing this and just holding off on it, but I really can't anymore. So I'm going to do this quicker, but I'm going to still make sure you know what you need to know about doing this, because one thing I want to preface in this video before I go on is that I don't want to be unkind or cruel, but this kind of tree, a sakura, a Japanese cherry blossom tree, the weeping kinds, most often I find that people do not know how to maintain these trees. If you're somebody who shears yours into an umbrella, I don't want to be unkind. That's just not how you do this. This is supposed to grow naturally, okay? This is supposed to be a natural, irregular, almost asymmetrical kind of growing habit, and it's supposed to weep from the top to the bottom. That is how it is supposed to grow. To shear it into a shape like an umbrella is to announce to the entire world that you have no real aesthetical grasp of the beauty that this kind of tree has to offer. So if that sounds a bit harsh, I'm sorry, but this video is to show you how you prune it and the correct way to do it. So this, you fertilize it just before it starts flowering in the spring. You prune it after it's done flowering. You really have throughout the summer to do this, but just know that to do it in the early spring, it's setting buds so that it grows on old wood. This is going to bloom on old wood, so when you prune it in the winter, you're taking off any buds that it is previously set, so you're sacrificing flowers by doing it later. That's why we do it in the spring after it's done flowering. So I'm first going to make some pretty significant cuts. If you notice, this is really heavily leafed out right now, and it's almost hard to kind of get an understanding of how it's growing, its shape, but I'm going to focus on the really big branches that I want off as opposed to smaller ones like this. This I'm not going to worry about so much, but I want you to understand that there's a few things that I don't want. One, I don't want crossing branches, like large crossing branches. Two, I don't want growth that sticks up like this. I really don't want growth that's going too far to the left or too far to the right. Since mine is a dwarf, it's a low growing form, mine is kind of growing out more towards the bottom as opposed to the top, but yours is probably a regular one. So you'll notice yours kind of grows more from the top as opposed to the bottom like mine. So right now I have this really almost like a Dior kind of silhouette shape to it that and I really want the top to grow out too. So I want it to be sort of uniform, the how far it's coming out and how it's weeping. So the first thing I'm going to do, and also paying attention to the growth nodes where it's leafed out, because depending on where I make my cut, it's going to influence energy to those surrounding nodes depending on where you cut it. If you look up here, you can see that it's just growing a lot more over here than it is over here. Now, I want it to come out more like a fountain. I want the shape to be more like a fountain. And you can see that it's just growing more out here than it is over here. And so what I want to do is correct that. So what you're about to see me do is something, it's going to look very extreme, but I promise this makes sense. I'm going to make cuts to get rid of this right here, because I can visualize what it'll look like gone, and this right here. If you can, visualization is a really important aspect of what this is. If you can't do that, it's going to be a problem. So I have to be able to see what it'll look like without these gone, and I have to know where I'm cutting along here. This right here is a node where its growth can come. This right here is, you can see some over here. So wherever I cut is going to determine where the energy is going to go. And I know I don't want this right here because it'll grow out and it'll be on that side. I know I don't want this one cut, or I don't want this here because it'll influence to grow out there. And again, I don't want it to go out that way. I want it to come this way. So if you'll see, this growth node right here is more coming this way. So, and that's ultimately what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back as far as I need to get rid of it that way. So that's one. And now the second one is this right here. And there's a growth node you can see over here, but again, that's going that side. I don't want it. So I'm going to keep, you might not be able to see, but it's okay. But I'm going to go even further back and There we go. And so this was pretty huge, actually. You can even see right here, that piece of growth right there. And then there's one right here. There are two separate ones that are going to come out this way and that are going to come out the opposite way. And so that's a way to like influence it to kind of like spout from all directions and still have that overall height be the same now, as opposed to how you saw it at the beginning. No, I know this looks very extreme. There's going to be people that see this that are like, oh my gosh, you know, freak out as soon as you see me do that. But you have to understand, this is going to grow out a lot over the summer. You cannot be afraid to make these cuts. And just with those 2 cuts, I did that. And it'll still continue growing. I'll still get growth throughout the summer, so just don't, you got to remember that. If I'm doing this in the fall or the winter, obviously it's not going to grow much more. By the time you get into October, everything's kind of, it's coming to a standstill. But by doing it now in the spring, we still got a lot of growing to go. If you'll notice, as you come down, you have these really, really long coming out pieces. What I want is I want it to be flush as it goes down. I want it to be like a shower that doesn't get wide at the bottom or is too wide at the top, or things sticking. Remember, the 3 things I'm looking for are crossing things, main branches that are crossing, not smaller ones. Things that are sticking up and maybe just going too far to the side. Those are the things that I'm paying attention to. When it's leafed out like this, it can be a bit difficult, so please take your time. Just be patient and just take your time. There's no reason to do this fast. If you look all the way back right here, you can see where this goes left into this branch. But if you look lower, you can see it's got a part right here that goes straight out and goes down. So this I can influence to grow, be the main one that grows, while getting rid of this one right here. So what I'm gonna do is take this one all the way back, if I can cut it. Okay, so this looks kind of extreme, I know, but if you'll notice, it took off that. Now I've got one that's coming kind of straight out, and this is gonna come down, or the one above it will come straight down. These are coming out in the direction I want it to go. Another one that I really don't want, this right here, if you look, is going a little to the left. That's not that big a deal. I'm talking about like ones that kind of get extreme, but this growth that's going up and coming out is just taking it too far out. You can see all this over here, especially because I'm about to have an in-ground pond. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of this entire branch right here. And I know this, again, I know this seems extreme, but it'll grow, it'll keep growing. You know, you're not killing the tree, you're shaping it. You know, this is another thing. If you make mistakes, this can take several years to really figure out how to establish more of like a rapport, a relationship with the shaping of this tree, and you'll get better as time goes by at knowing how it's growing. Paying attention to the growth nodes is just really important too, how this thing grows. But if you'll notice right there, I'm immediately kind of getting rid of side branches, and now I'm kind of focusing on ones that are coming straight out. Here's another one right here that's coming out farther than the top is, but I really love this branch, and this one here. I love how these come straight down, so I really don't want to cut those, but I also don't like them this far out. So this is a good example of me paying attention to some growth nodes. Like, for example, you see how far this goes out? What I could have is instead coming to a point and getting a new growth node to come straight down where it's not coming out as far. So right here, about right here, is flush to that tree where I'm gonna go a little bit back though, and then pay attention to where a node is that I can influence to grow straight down. And in this case, it's gonna be one that's more in the back. Right here, this node right here is on the back of it. So as this comes out, it could give me what I want, but it might not. It's kind of a gamble really when you're doing this. But I'm still going to cut this one, I think, because this is just too far back, or it's coming too far out, especially with the pond that I want. So I missed it. Okay, right here. I just cut that one, and that's a pretty big piece. From where you're looking right now, it probably looks bad to you, but I'm also not done. This is really just to kind of show you examples of what I'm planning on doing. This is coming out too far to me also. And also this one right here is moving too far to the left. It comes out a little bit right here, but it immediately goes to the right, my right. So this is one that I could take back all the way, but it's still not that extreme. I think for right now, I'm gonna leave this one because it goes straight down, and I like that. And plus, like, you can't see because these poppies are in the way, I'm sorry. But if these weren't there, you see how it comes like, it's flush with the top. So this one I'm actually gonna leave completely. You see how this comes out straight, but right here we got one to the left. It's coming straight to the left. I do not like that. So I'm gonna look at some of the nodes, and right here on the back of this, you see this? Here's one that's coming straight back and it can go down. I want it to continue going straight down, but I want to go further back than the top here because it'll still come out a little first. So what I'm gonna do is probably, I would say just right in here, paying attention to some of these surrounding nodes that are towards the back, maybe to the right, to the left, and see where it goes. I mean, you're not going to understand perfectly how this is going to grow until you watch it grow. I took that out. So that immediately took out that long piece going to the left, or to my left. I'm just going to come down here and lower this one. This one's dragging the ground. It doesn't matter so much where you cut this one, but these ones that are sticking out, I could cut past them. I'm just gonna make a cut anywhere in here. It really doesn't matter. I would rather do it with one that has a growth node coming back. So I'm just gonna cut right there. And then immediately it's not dragging on the ground anymore. And I'm gonna do, not this, I don't want this to be like, like completely regular. You can see where this is kind of coming further than this. You wanna pay attention to not make things look like you hedge clipped them or sheared them, I mean, like, cause that's what you wanna avoid, a look that looks sheared. This needs to look irregular, but what it needs to look like is nobody messed with it. You're trying to deceive people. It's an illusion. You want it to look like it grew naturally, but you know that the truth is you actually are the one that pruned it. All right, so I did finish pruning it, and I do want people to see it to get an overall kind of view of what I have done here, and so that way they can understand like that it's okay to have these like extreme cuts for now. So I don't know if you can, it's hard to see from here. So there, for one thing, I have a bunch of carnations around my bench. I also have a bunch of poppies growing in this spot right here, all through right here behind that angel right there. And so it's difficult to see what's happening from below there. Generally, I don't let things touch the ground. But the biggest thing, one of the most important things, is the top. You can see like it is uniform, not in the way that the branches or vines are kind of hanging down, but I'm just talking about the overall height and where the growth is happening. It's like happening all around it in a full circumference, and it's not, no one of them is sticking out higher than another. So we're gonna walk around it just so you can get an overall view of what I've done. And it might look like this spot is a bit bald, but again, don't worry about it. I mean, it's April right now, mid-April. This is going to put on a lot of more growth as the months go by. So this isn't like a slow growing tree. For another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, but in this spot here, I'm doing a very large in-ground pond, like a large in-ground pond. So it was important to me also to not have something coming out too far out over into this area, because it's going to be an in-ground pond, and yeah, that would have just been, but it was also something I was going to do anyway because they were coming out too far. So, oh yeah, I should be showing it as I walk around. You can see this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like from here. It's hard to see the bottom to the top, I know, but I just wanted to give people, here's another example of a cut I did. Do you see how this comes back here? This right here was sticking far out, but you can see where this branch is coming straight down. So it is literally like an arc that weeps straight down, and that's what I'm aiming for. So let's point out a branch right now that is not doing that and show you how I am going to correct it. That branch right there, I don't know if you can see it. This branch right here, we're gonna look into it as it goes all the way back. Hopefully you can see. I know it's kind of, I got branches in the way right here. So this goes all the way back to right here. Now, as you'll pay attention as it goes out, it doesn't really weep at any point. Now that doesn't mean it's not going to. However, it's gonna come out really far. Again, what I want, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, I'm just going for something very compact, still looking natural, but that weeps very dramatically, very quickly from like in long vines. And I want it to be irregular, so I am going for some very specific things. You could be going for something a little bit different, that's fine, but it's important then to pay attention to the more general information I've said in this video. Okay, so if you look right in here, I don't know if you see that? That bud right there. You can't see it too well, but it's stuff like that you're gonna kind of want to pay attention to because it's small now, but that's a growth node. They can go, it's kind of straight in that spot that I want, they can come straight down. So I cut it back to right here, but I'm gonna further go back in here, right there. Sorry, you can't see it. I'm gonna go further back in here to right there and just cut right there. And hopefully that'll influence that to kind of grow there and come straight down. One last thing I want to talk about before I end this video is that you might have wondered why I took back certain branches like all the way back, like large branches, like all the way to the trunk, because you don't have to do that. I mean, though some of one or two of the ones that I did that where they were main like branches, like big branches, I did that too. I could have just done it flush with the top of the tree and just instigated energy to go to a close node to keep it weeping at a certain spot. I'm also keeping in mind where these main branches are coming from. If I don't want a specific branch in a certain place and I'd rather see branches in other places, then just take it all the way back. You're not, again, like I know I'm repeating this ad nauseum, but we still have a lot left of time in the growing season. It's like mid-spring. And even for those main branches, if they're not like fully formed, it's still time enough to have the beginnings of main branches, you know, that'll definitely be, as a matter of fact, I take that back. No, they would be fully formed in new spots completely by the end of the growing season, because last year I had it the whole spring and summer, and there's large branches now that just weren't there at all, you know, that came from the trunk itself. So again, this thing, it grows. So I don't, if you made a wrong cut or you made a mistake, it's not the end of the world. There's still time if you're doing this at the right time. So, which would be in right after it flowers. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope this helps you to know how to prune a weeping cherry tree. And yeah, thanks for watching.